Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Kylie, for coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
Is it Tannehill or MacCracken? I'm like don't know which.
You and
name.
everybody else. I have multiple aliases. I'm legally MacCracken still. I never changed my last name when I got married.
Rebel.
I know. Well, I went to go do it. I had all the paperwork and stuff, and it was like a 6-hour wait at the Social Security office in Seattle, and I was just like, nah, MacCracken's great.
as well.
And so I just didn't. And my legal first name is Michaela.
Oh.
But I've never gone by Michaela. The only person, my husband calls me Michaela, and he's the only person
Really?
in my life that does that. Yes.
Oh.
So yes, Kylee MacCracken is what I go by. Tannehill is my husband's last name, and my kids, obviously.
Obviously.
Yes.
Is the licensing like, I don't know, were you just, I don't know, can you change midway through, right? Yeah.
You can. Yes, you can. And I was already selling real estate when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
Not long though, only about a year and a half. And that was a reason that I didn't want to, because I feel like MacCracken is a pretty good real estate name. It's a hard one to forget.
It's a distinct name.
Yes. And so, but yeah, it was mostly just the inconvenience of doing it that I never did it. And
Love it.
so here we are.
Then let's go into the how many years. I always have to start.
I started real estate in 2014. And so coming up on 10 years in February, I think will be 10 years. Yeah.
And you've seen it all.
Yeah. I mean, even in the past 10 years, it's weighed, even 10 years back, it's weighed pretty heavily as a seller's market throughout almost all of the time that I've been selling real estate. Because 2014, we were still coming out of at the beginning of my career, I was still negotiating short sales and stuff and on the phone with banks for hours a day and all of that stuff. Not a ton, but I definitely did quite a few my first like year and a half, 2 years in. And so in that sense, that has kind of waned down. And that waned down right then about 2012 through 2015 is when that kind of started dying down. All the short sales were sold by then and all that stuff. And so, and then it seemed to just pick up really quickly on the seller side. And it's gone that way ever since. And it still very much so is. Just the lack of inventory. I don't know when that will ever change, if ever, because a lot of things are happening in the world that make that not plausible for the future.
No one wants to let go of that. Their rates that they have right now. And
I mean, and there's so many other things as far as the lack of new construction and, you know, in the crash, all building halted and then it didn't start again for a lot longer than it should have. Builders were just too hesitant to start again. And that put us several years back. And now we've got things like BlackRock Financial and all these foreign companies that are coming in and buying tons and tons and tons of real estate. And those homes will never be on the market again because they'll never sell them. Bunch of different factors. A lot of Airbnb. I've read a lot of articles lately about the Airbnb market kind of taking a hit and the expectation of all those homes to be sold. And so I don't know. It's an interesting time to see who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely feel that. And the Airbnb thing, the investing, you know, everyone's it's like the thing now. And you started in Seattle?
Yeah, well, Maple Valley. So it's a suburb, probably a little less than 30 miles, like southeast of the city.
Okay.
Still very much so involved in like part of Seattle and all that kind of stuff. But in center of King County. Yeah.
Washington.
Yes. Yeah.
And you owned your own brokerage?
I did. So, well, not my own, but I owned it with 2 business partners. We opened our own brokerage in end of 2018, I think. Might not have been all official until early 2019. But I started at a RE/MAX office, actually. We were at RE/MAX for 6 or 7 years. Then we went to Compass. And then after our process with Compass is when we decided that we could do this.
You could do this.
Because it was just a headache and a lot of in our experience, there was a lot of like over promising and under delivering. And so it was just like, why are we paying anybody to do this? We can do this ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So then we did.
Well, then the big city, you starting over there to now being here in this different market, do you feel that our community or there's lack in some of the stuff that goes on, or
as far as like Lewiston itself, or just like the real estate market?
Let's just say real estate market.
Yeah. So I think Lewiston is actually it shocked me a little bit because I lived here in the past. Me and my husband came over here. He played ball at LC, and we lived here for about 5 years previously, and the amount of growth and everything. Lewiston is extremely expensive for Idaho.
Yes.
And it's very shocking. And I think I deal with that a lot with, people relocating from other states that are wanting to come here, and the shock of property taxes and even what you get for your money, because the majority of the homes are so much older here in Lewiston that like, I think for a lot of people, it's really shocking that, there's some 1970s, 80s homes that are $500,000, and it's wild.
Yeah.
But again, of course, we were seeing that in Seattle, like even more so. It was absurd, what people were paying, the price per square foot. And I think from what I know from colleagues that are still there and friends and stuff that are still there, their market definitely took a much larger hit when all of this happened in 21 with the rates and all this stuff, or 22 with the rates. Their market took a much larger hit, and their homes took a big dive in value. Not anything, that is crisis wise or anything, but their market took a bigger hit than ours did, for sure. Yeah.
And what year did you move back over here then?
We got here in March of last year, 22.
22.
Yeah.
And you started at
Keller Williams. Yes.
KW.
Yes.
Still there.
Still there. Yep.
And I'm just so curious with the different sides, everything is so different worldwide, whatever, but our place is very lacking in terms of being like in touch with everything that's going on.
Totally.
And so I'm just that difference world where you were in.
Honestly, that was the appeal.
Yeah,
being out of touch with everything that was going on, because we were right smack dab in the center of it. Through all of it, my husband worked downtown Seattle, was just in the midst of the chaos every day. And even though we only lived about 30 miles from downtown Seattle, his commute was an hour and a half each way every day. And then you're just very much so in the midst of it constantly. That's all anybody talks about. And so it was just, we came over here for Thanksgiving of 2020, because of course King County, you were not allowed to gather with people outside of your home, and they set up websites so that you could tell on your neighbors and all that fun stuff. Gosh. So we came over here,
family,
friends, and did Thanksgiving over here. And I remember we were in a group of people, and a lot more people than were probably supposed to be in a room together. But I had a young baby at the time, and I was sitting in the corner with my baby, and I just remember nobody was talking about, there was all these people in different conversations going on in the room, and nobody was talking about COVID, and nobody was talking about politics at all. And it was just so refreshing. And I was like, I think that's really when I like realized, like, oh my God, we have to get out of where we are, because
it's time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then that was November of 2020. We bought our place here in March of 21. And then it took a while to get over here with all the things with my business and stuff, and kind of dissolving a partnership and all that kind of stuff took a little bit. Yeah.
Was that?
And I also not agreed, but offered to like stay and help try to, whether it's hire a couple agents underneath us, a couple more agents, or train some. I just offered to stay to like, or help maybe if they could find another partner that would have been an option and help train and all that stuff. But that neither of those things happened. But it was just a long process, and there was a lot tied into it. It was very both my business partners we were really close and friends and like family and all the things, and so it was just a messy, long, but it is fine.
From going to owning your own to being on your own in an agency, like you like one more than the other?
I mean, there's not that much. I mean, other than the fact that now I'm paying somebody else a fee on every transaction is really and obviously I don't prefer that, but the upside to that is, like having an office building. And, we had an office building, but we also had to pay for the office building, all that kind of stuff, that all the liability and the expense is definitely taken off you. But the one thing that I definitely did miss was going from working in a big office with a lot of other agents outside of my team and all that kind of stuff. I definitely miss that. And I think that Keller Williams, I told Jessica Bean that when I first got here, that the environment of our office is just like none other than I've been in a real estate world. Our office environment is awesome, and everybody is, we will spur into little random masterminds after meetings about stuff, and everybody's pretty close knit, and we have a great work environment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've, interviewed several KW people, and that's what the biggest part of it they say is the team aspect of being able to just, you're working together, you're not working together, but you're able to feed off each other.
Yeah.
And
it's really common, like the competitiveness in brokerages happens, like naturally. I think that is totally normal. But there's like none of that in our office, which is awesome.
Yeah. Over there, did you feel I can say Seattle area, like when I say over there, kind of.
Yeah.
So you started your, the brokerage a year before then COVID hit.
Yeah.
What happened at that point? I mean,
well, that was really scary because Washington, I think, was one of like 2 or 3 states that deemed real estate, what was the word when you were
a need,
unnecessary, or whatever. Yeah. We were not the necessary workers, which was really surprising because people need homes even in pandemics. And it was actually a big deal. The National Association of Realtors actually went to Washington state government and petitioned and did this whole thing because they were like really digging their heels in for a couple weeks. But then they started like, oh, real estate is like apartment leases, and like all these people's apartment leases are ending, and the apartment complex has no one there to renew them, so they're telling them they have to move out and all these kind of things. And so that was like a 2 or 3 week thing that we just couldn't work. And then the restrictions on the whole process, it was so comical, kind of, because you could show a house to a family, but only one person at a time could go into the house with you. And it's like, all these people live in the same house and we're going to bring them all individually. It was so silly. Made zero sense.
Yeah.
And so that, it went back and forth, and it was so funny because it would switch. It's like, oh, you could have 2 people now. Oh, no, we're backtracking to 1. Oh, no, you can have 4 people in the house with you. And the open house rules, you had to like stand at the door and check off to see how many people were coming in as they were coming out, and people would have to wait outside for other people to leave so that they could go inside. And so it was a real pain in the butt. But it quickly, like almost instantly, just blew up. It was pure chaos and insanity. And every time we would list a house and it would sell for X dollars amount over, we would be like, no freaking way. Like, I remember my ex-business partner and me, we would literally, because we were working at each other's homes, so we couldn't ever see each other. But we would call each other like at least once or twice a week and be like, oh my God, like you'll never believe what I got for this. And like, it was just shocking every time. And it just kept going up and up and up and up. It was just mind-blowing. And it just seemed to have never and I think about it now and the amount of money that I sold people houses for, like the amount of money that people paid for houses that I sold them, and I telling them like, hey, this is not going to appraise, like, you're not. And it was just,
it would.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, it wouldn't.
No, they would just pay cash, the difference.
They didn't care.
No, yeah.
My
it was their only option. If they wanted a shot, they had to, because somebody else would.
Is more cutthroat in terms of like pending deals and getting, PSAs out. It's because of the more like the bigger population. There's more people looking at that house. There's more offers.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was really common to have like 20, 30, 40 offers on a house. There was just really normal. And eventually you would just cut it and just say, like, we wouldn't even look at offers the first round. We would just contact everybody and say, send me your highest and best. Like, we have X amount of offers. Tell us what you'll.
I was going to ask how you would just like cut that off. Like,
yeah, we would just, in our listings, it would, we like literally had a system. Everybody would list their house on a Wednesday or Thursday. And then we would do an open house on Saturday, and we would review offers on Monday, every single listing. Wow. It's literally how you did it.
Dang. Because it was that just
And it would always be pending by Monday. Like, you would never not. I think there was, I mean, can't think of a house that we had listed that did not sell in that time period. And it really didn't matter what you listed it for.
Right.
Because we'd do CMAs and tell people like, XYZ, don't go over this amount. And they'd be like, oh, we're going to try for 50 grand more. And we'd be like, don't advise that. But then they'd end up getting 150 grand more. So it was like, okay.
Oh my God. So coming into this then.
Yeah. And when I first got here, it was still definitely like a hotter market for Lewiston in like March, April of 22. Took me a minute. I had to all the DOLs were a disaster at that point. And so I was trying to get my Idaho license and all that kind of stuff figured out. And that took several weeks just because.
My Idaho took forever for LO stuff.
Yeah.
Washington was quick. It was weird.
Yeah. And so it took me a couple weeks after we moved here until I actually had a license to sell. I mean, I could sell in Washington, but I definitely do a lot more Idaho than Washington.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember what I was saying.
The
market was, it was still pretty, it was still very fast market here. I think it was like, I don't know, what was it? Like August of 22 when the first big rate jump hit. And so really until then, I mean, we kind of had an idea that it was going to happen. Like it, for the first two rate hikes were like 0.25%, 0.5%. And so everyone's like, oh, this is happening. Like and then it just went like,
I know,
1.5% overnight, and it was like, holy crap, 7%.
July of 22 was when I passed my test.
Yeah.
Or it was June. And then I think I got my Washington first, July. And then ever since then, I was like, I started so bad.
Yes.
But again, it's.
Well, and it all comes in waves, right? I mean, you're going to, all these people now, we're going to get another lending side is going to have a crazy couple years as soon as rates fall below 5%. Everyone and their mother is going to be refinancing and nonstop.
Well, and credit right now, they're really cracking down and getting more strict on credit. And just I'm curious to see what this will entail.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, and like I was reading something how much credit card debt.
Oh yeah,
people have had to build up for.
During COVID and stuff? Yeah. Which you'd think would be the opposite because they were like giving so much money out and about freely.
I know. Well, and now I was also reading another thing that co-signing. People are now having to co-sign for.
Well, I feel like I kind of feel like a broken record on the fact that like our children are not, it's not going to be plausible for our children to own homes.
No.
And
not in their 20s.
No. And one, I mean, it's just going to continue to get, price-wise. It's like, I think about, we just bought a house. We closed like 6 weeks ago on a house up in Harvest Vista that we're remodeling the whole thing.
Fun.
But we paid $700,000 for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't imagine the world where like, and it's not a big it's 2,200 square feet, not anything big, super fancy, nothing like that. And it's just like, I just can't imagine. I remember the first house we bought was just under 300,000. And that was like, whoa, pump the brakes. My husband was really mad at me because I kind of just did it without telling him. And it was like $300,000. Oh my gosh, what are you thinking? And really, he's had the same reaction to every house we've ever bought, but they've all turned out to be very good investments. So, yeah, I mean, and like what our kids can buy for $300,000 today, or what anybody can buy for $300,000 today, compared to what I bought my first house for 10 years ago, like doesn't even compare. And then so you think of, add 15 more years to that, like what is going to be the option for our kids? I know. There just isn't going to be any.
There's a TikTok. Do you TikTok at all?
A little bit. I mostly scroll. I don't post much of anything.
There was a lady that was like, my parents embedded in me that I needed to go to college, I needed to have a good job, and make it. And then she's like, well, I parent my kids the same way. Theoretically, it hasn't been able to work out that way.
It does not equate.
And she's like, I can't believe I tried to parent my kids just like my parents tried to parent me.
Well, and I just watched a video the other day that was like, I think it was talking about like the salaries required at each purchase point to buy a home. And I think at $500,000, the salary was like $240,000 a year or something. And I was like, and our median home price here in Lewiston is inching up closer to 400 over and it's like, it's going to get there pretty soon. And not that many people are making that kind of money around here either. So it's like, I don't know what that
is like, maybe like a local job, maybe online or like.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like locally, I can't remember. I read what the median income was here in town not that long ago, but it definitely wasn't that. And so it's like when the median income doesn't afford you the median home,
there's no balance.
Problems.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Have you had quite a bit of out of town people for clients?
Yeah. I'm working with a couple now that they retired and actually moved to Florida, but they're looking for a second home. They're from California, retired, moved to Florida, looking for a second home here. I've got a lot of people from that side, King County wise. I get a lot of referrals because people will like look for an agent here and they'll look on like my past sales and it's all over there. And so people there call me a lot because they're like, oh, XYZ and where they're from and all the things. And so I definitely have had quite a few people transplant over from King County.
Positive.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. I mean, that's been great too. I still obviously get calls from past, I didn't change my phone number or anything. So I still get calls and emails and stuff. And so I'm able to refer out a lot of business over there as well, which is nice when you're starting over and starting your career all over.
Now, let's, I don't know, maybe for some people that just don't know, when you relocate in the same state or like, well, we have a river that gets us. Could you do a lot of stuff in King County?
I technically could if I was still you have to be a member of that local MLS. So that side of the state is Northwest MLS.
Got it.
So nothing over here is in that same MLS. But yeah, I'm still licensed and I couldn't serve anybody well. That's the thing is, in my opinion, you can't serve anybody well when you're
I'm gonna go show a house in
7 hours
days
away from them, right? Yeah. So I would never, but I technically could. But yeah, I have a lot of great referral partners over there that makes it really easy. Yeah.
For someone like wanting to go into something maybe smaller, or relocating, was it a huge change going from, business-wise?
Business-wise, yeah.
Personally, you were like you said, you guys left, just felt like that needed to be, but business-wise.
It was a huge change. Again, I had been pretty well established, doing very steady business for several years, and it was very intimidating starting over. but luckily, like I said, we had lived here before. My husband, we came over here in, I think it was 2010.
So we graduated.
And he played some ball at LC and then ended up playing a couple years of pro ball. And while I had already graduated school, and I worked at Dutch Brothers and Canners and met a lot of people, and we made, in our time here, we made a lot of really close friendships that we stayed friends with. Even after we had moved back to Seattle, we frequented back to Lewiston, at least probably once a year. And then in the midst of COVID, we were here much more frequently. And so I came over here with a solid foundation of friends and good relationships and all of that. And it's kind of, it definitely has worked out a lot better than I expected it to. Mm-hmm. I was very hesitant, or not hesitant. I was very, and not even doubtful. I don't know. I was really scared.
Yeah, scared.
I have kids and all the, when I first got licensed, I didn't have any babies or bills or responsibility. And so it was a lot different starting out this time. And it's my only source of income. I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to go get another job doing. And so it was kind of, if anything. And so it was kind of like, you just have to figure it out, because this is all you can know how to do.
Well, that's fantastic that worked out in the way that it did.
Yeah, it's been really great.
Do you feel like a mentor or something is in your sights in the future of
as far as team building wise, or
starting your own? Or
I don't know that I would have a need to start my own currently. I think the biggest kick in the pants for us to start our own brokerage previously was the cost of where we were working, and the cost at Keller Williams is very reasonable.
Good.
So it's not, it just wouldn't make a ton of sense, because there isn't the financial burden isn't there with KW. They have a very, very fair caps, and it's very reasonable. And so that was honestly the biggest draw to do it, is because we were paying a very large chunk of money to the brokerages that we worked for every year, and it just seemed like, well, why are we doing that? They don't do anything for us.
Right.
Which, not that they didn't,
but not as much.
Not that they wouldn't if they didn't have to, because mostly it's the legal aspect of it, and the big brokerages, E&O insurance is what is the big benefit for you if you ever were to get into any hot water. They have really big fancy lawyers, and so when you start your own brokerage, that's the only thing that you're giving up, really. And the name, all that kind of stuff. Right. That's what they sell you, at least. But I don't think I would ever have a reason to. I suppose if there was a reason to, I would have no I would have no qualms about doing it. It would be, I know the process. It's not very difficult. It's a couple pieces of paper and business licenses and stuff.
Yeah. Is it more difficult than you thought when you first started?
No.
Getting your own? No.
It was much easier than
really?
I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't our managing broker, so I didn't have to take the test.
Extra.
But that's the only real hurdle to it, is taking the continuing ed and taking the test to get a managing broker's license. Really? And then the rest of it's just paperwork, really.
Huh.
Yeah.
Not too bad then.
No, it wasn't.
Wow.
Doesn't take much.
Did you automatically know you wanted to go to KW when you came over here?
I had a pretty good idea, just because I had known Jessica and watched her for a really long time, and, kind of build this awesome career that, and she just has done a great job doing what she does. And so it just kind of seemed like I just had talked to her, and I had known her from working at the coffee stand and stuff. And so we had kind of talked about stuff over the years, just on Instagram messaging and stuff, random stuff. So I kind of had a pretty good intuition that that's where I would go. And then after meeting with them and figuring out and Keller Williams as a brokerage is phenomenal as far as trainings and stuff, that if you want to be involved in stuff and education and all that kind of stuff, they are by far the best brokerage for that. There's just always something. which for like new agents and training and all that kind of stuff, it's phenomenal. But just their structure here was great.
Couldn't pass up.
Yeah, it was just, it all just makes a lot of, I mean, financially, it was definitely the way to go in the Valley.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like blunt about it, but it definitely is. Yeah.
Blunt, I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely, and then not only is it so much more affordable to work there, it's a beautiful building that Kyle and Jessica renovated the whole thing. And so you're in a nice, great, clean space. And I think that makes a big difference just in general, your work environment, which also helps a lot too. So
do you tend to go to the office?
Yeah, I am a in-office worker. I don't accomplish much if I am not like by myself in front of a desk, because it's really easy for me to just get, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do that, or, and so I try to get into the office for a couple hours every day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is, with that option of working from home, you get more done in the office?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I get the option if I, want to, I can work in the office, work at home. And with our kids' schedules, and I'm doing so many other things, that it makes it so I can.
Oh, yes. It's nice. Oh, for sure. And my thing is, I feel like I feel like I have to justify going to work to have my kids in childcare. Like because if I'm working at home, I feel like I always feel guilty, and I want to let my kids stay home if I'm staying home for the day, and then you absolutely accomplish nothing. So that's 100% where that perspective of mine comes from, is because like it makes me want to like let my kids stay home if I'm home, and then the whole day goes out the window because nothing gets accomplished. So I just don't. I send them to school and I go to work.
Right.
Yes.
Let's talk about then the kids and educating them. And, we kind of dabbled in that, but do you have kind of an idea what you're going to do for your kids, or, teach them about how to look at the market? Or
Yeah. Well, we own a couple investment properties that more than likely, I mean, who knows? Of course, so much could happen, and I have no idea, to be completely honest with you, but my intention would be to sell our children a property at a reasonable price that they can afford. Probably a little more than we paid for it 20 years prior, but not, for it to even be a benefit to them, it would have to be significantly under market value. And that's kind of what I would envision that we do.
Did you know that that's kind of the idea?
I think it's just sank in a lot harder the last like 3 years, just with how quickly home prices have changed, just in, the difference from when we bought our first home to not even 10 years later, how significantly more expensive it is. And, historically things don't get cheaper, and so it's like, even if the market were to go down, I mean, it rings true of 2008. If 70% of those people wouldn't have let their homes go, their house would have been more, 10% more in less than 10 years later.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's not likely that if trends continue, even if we did take a downturn at some point in the next 15 years, it's not likely that homes are going to be less than 50% more expensive than what they are now, And so the odds of them, unless they do something great, I don't know, maybe they'll be just set.
Yeah.
And I won't have to sell them anything.
That's the fear, though.
They can buy me shit.
Right? That's the fear, though, that they're going to come to me and be like, you want me kicked out? Where am I going to go?
Where am I going to go?
You know? And it's that fear of those extra thoughts now that, we had our market stuff, but what's their market going to look like?
Yeah, I obviously have no idea, but I can just, historically.
Have your own.
Well, I mean, and that gap is just widening and widening, especially over the last 3 years, right? From the median income to the median home prices is just getting further and further and further apart. So it's like, unless you just expect your child to be the Michael Jordan of life and just to kill it, and by 18 be able to go out at, by the time our kids are 18 years old, the median home price in the Valley is probably going to be $600,000-$700,000. Like, that's just likely where it would end up at,
You see the course of how things have been and progressed.
Yeah. So you give it another 10 year, and probably not 600, but high fives, I would not be surprised at.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, unless you just are banking on your kid just really killing it.
AI.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is the one thing that is going to change, is the opportunities to make money are, in my opinion, I think they're going to get a lot bigger for our kids to do it in just different ways rather than just traditional jobs or careers or anything like that. Like, they're going to have an opportunity to make money in a lot of different ways than we did. And so I don't know.
It's crazy to think like what. Well, I was laughing with my friend about Back to the Future when they thought 2020. Oh gosh, what was it? 2018.
2018, I think.
Is that when they thought the flying cars?
I think so.
Was it? I think that's what it was. But
yeah, it's just so funny, who knows, right? What could happen?
What the future would look like. But
yeah,
AI, it's kind of scary. Have you had to deal with anyone that you've never met before, like face-to-face clients?
Yeah. I've done a lot of that in my days.
Big city, I'm sure it's
more.
So
I definitely always carried some pepper spray on me. I had a taser for a little while. I don't know what I did with that. But yeah, I've met people. I don't know. I feel like I am pretty good. I have I 100% always, I trust my gut really well. And I have you can get a really good idea of not even someone's intentions, but if they're serious or not, just over an initial phone calls, knowing the right questions to ask and stuff like that. And if someone seems a little odd or fishy, like, you would just bring someone with you to the showing or whatever. I've had a couple experiences that were like, oh shit, that was close.
Oh God. Oh no, I hate that.
Yeah. Well, I was hosting an open house one time, and I don't even remember how it came about that. I don't even remember if we even had a conversation or what, but there was a gentleman in the house by himself, and there was a couple other couples. A gentleman in the house by himself, and he had gone upstairs, and I was downstairs talking to another couple or something and not thinking anything of it. And then that couple went upstairs, and the husband of that couple found the guy hiding in the closet.
No.
Yeah. And so he freaked out. Drug the guy out of the house, and we called the cops and stuff. They didn't do anything because he didn't do anything wrong, but that was like oh man, that could have been bad.
God. A psycho.
Yeah, that was.
I'm sure. Yeah, that.
And at the time, I feel like I was young and invincible feeling, and so I was just like, whatever, nothing happened.
Nothing scary I can handle.
So,
would you show houses by yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to.
Right.
Yeah.
But just that gut feeling, whether.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would never show a house without having a conversation with the people first, and I mean, I've definitely I don't know. I definitely tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. I genuinely think most people are good, and so even weird. And I've had those weird feelings and talked myself out of them, and then after the showing, I've been like, God, you're so overreacting and crazy. This guy's just a little kooky, but he's totally fine. But yeah, I've had a lot of showings where I've felt a little off and then just never attempted to call the people again. And they don't ever call you back either. So
and I think with just AI or pretending to be someone else, especially if it's something where you just don't physically get to see the people, or that phone call. It's
there's a lot of weird scam things right now that I don't really know the intention of them. I don't get the end goal. We get a ton of automated texts from people pretending to be, whether it's your broker, hey, this is blah blah blah, your broker in Spokane, can you do me a favor, and talking very normal, and you're yeah, what's up? And then it's I need you to go to the closest gas station and buy me 50 or $50 Apple gift cards, and I don't really know the intention of the scam in that instance. Because it's I don't know who would fall for that, but I guess people must
do.
Yeah.
It's so sad. But it's that, with credit, there are companies and businesses that buy your information
totally.
from credit bureaus.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just cold call you.
Oh, yeah. Same thing when you're getting a loan. Like if you're getting a loan,
oh, yeah.
Ours,
it's whenever we pull credit and they see that. And it's like, then they go and, oh, yeah, I see you recently were looking at a house.
Yeah. They're just now, we just closed on our house like, I don't know, probably like 6 weeks ago. And I've just, like, those calls and texts have just kind of stopped happening. But like they were I was getting intense. Like 3 to 5 a day, probably for a solid month and a half-ish.
No, right. There is an option that you're able to do. I think I talked about this on another podcast, but go to optout.press or something. And
I'm definitely on the do not call list. Yeah.
The one, because as a lender, there's an option for me to do like a 5-year. For 5 years, you shouldn't. But then there's an option where you can do it long term, but they need to talk to you. Gotcha. Or you needed. It's a little bit more stuff that I can't release.
Right.
Your information, but
totally.
Give them, like if you allow.
Well, and they don't. That's what the consumer thinks it's you.
Yeah. And I have to have permission. Like whenever I get like that, yes, you can pull my credit. Then I go and immediately before I even pull, I do the opt out.
Yeah. But they still get around. They still get them. Yeah. It's wild.
You can turn them in and get
totally
$500.
Yeah. For every phone call too.
Every phone call. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like, is that something that's just gonna get worse?
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah. Or there'll be ways where they don't even have to contact you eventually, and they'll be able to do whatever they want.
You think that'll happen in real estate? Like in terms of like, oh, I see you're working with this realtor. Are they helping you?
Oh, it does already.
Does that? Okay,
oh, yeah.
I didn't know if that.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen.
Oh.
I mean, especially, and it's going to start to, we were actually just talking about this in our office meeting this morning. Like a couple agents had that experience recently, and it's just going to get worse.
Local?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no.
And as the market tightens and slows down, that will definitely be a common thing for a while.
Yeah. I get it all the time, like the shopping rates, which, it happens.
Yeah. Which is definitely a lot more normal for the lending side of it.
Yes.
These days it's like.
But a realtor, it just seems like, I don't know, a little sneaky.
A little bit, yeah. I would never do it, but
right?
That's always the first question I ask is if you're working with a realtor.
Yeah. Well, in ours, we put in a system, like a referral system. And it's like where, in the amount that we closed that month, where did we get the most referrals from?
Yeah.
Was it an agent? Was it a billboard? Was it all these things? So we measure it.
Track your leads. Yeah.
And for someone that comes in that doesn't know, or like how they're like,
they don't have an agent,
and then it's like,
you're going to send them to the realtor that's giving you the most.
Yes. Or I feel like that would be the most fit.
Yeah.
And that I love this. It makes me, get to know more agents. It gets me to have more options available.
Yeah.
And more informational.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of the time, especially when I bought my house, I don't know about you, Dara, when you bought your house, but did you know anything going into it? No. Most people don't. They don't.
Even people that have bought and sold. I mean, I'm working with a gentleman now that's moving up here from California. He's, my guess is mid to late 70s. He's very, like everything is, nothing is electronic over email. He hasn't even seen the home actually. He's buying it sight unseen.
Wow. That's crazy.
But he's like, he bought and sold 12 houses. And he's like, I have no idea what the heck is going on. Like at all. He has no idea,
Oh my God.
So I don't think anybody, and I mean, even I remember I was in a class at some point early on in my career, and the guy teaching the class just said, like, you as real estate agents, you should buy or sell a home every 2 years just to like keep your mindset in
how the way things
work and what your clients are going through. And, because it's really easy to be like, oh, I know, because we get a million calls like, my lender wants XYZ again and then blah, blah, blah. And like trying to explain to them why is pointless. And so it's just, but to keep yourself in that mindset of what it's actually like. And I just did. And it was such a headache. buying a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
did you feel, especially local, do you feel like there's an area that is maybe weak or lax in the whole process?
Oh, I don't think it's necessarily that. I mean, on the lending side, things, for a good reason, obviously, things have gotten so much more stringent and documented and verified XYZ times 3. And I think that is
self-employment.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so I think that is really frustrating to people because they're like, I already sent you my bank statements. But it's like, yeah, but that was 45 days ago. So now you have a new statement that actually needs to be sent again. And people just don't quite understand why. And a lot of those people probably bought homes in 2005 and 6 and 7 where they could just say, hey, I make XYZ and give me
all right.
Yes, give me a loan for that amount.
It's true to your word.
Yes. And so I think that picking up so much as it has in the last couple of years, because it's even gotten worse. I remember because I don't remember when it was 15, 6, that Obama put all these laws into place so that all of that wouldn't happen again.
Yes.
And at first it was really shocking to everyone. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible for real estate and blah, blah, blah. It turned out to be a pretty good thing. But I feel like it's gotten more intense in the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, all of it seems to be a lot more intense verification wise. Again, it's a pain in the butt for that amount of time that you're going through it, but in the long run, it's probably a good thing for all involved.
And just everyone, when something does go wrong, they want to point a finger, and we want to make sure that everything, we are for sure. I think the amount of foreclosure rate, percentages is gonna go up with some of this. It's like, people maybe losing their job because of the economy or AI is taking over, and and
well, it's bound to, right? Because we've just had 2.5 years of none. So all those people that over the last 2.5 years, that regardless of pandemic or whatever, some of those people would have lost their homes. Oh yeah. Regardless of what is happening in the world. So all of those people probably aren't far behind. The unfortunate part right now, well, that's going to be one thing that's going to change that factor a little bit, is everybody's got so much damn equities that if anybody forecloses in the next couple of years, I'm going to smack them in the face because no one should have to.
No. I know.
I mean, literally everybody has so much equity.
Right.
And so that's gonna delay a lot of foreclosures that would have normally happened. Was that, I mean, at least in King County there for 2 years, we were seeing 30% in a year, from 20 to 30% equity. Oh, from 21 to 22 was literally 30% in 1 year. And I mean, I sold brand new homes, turned around 4 months later and sold them for $100,000 more than what they paid for them 4 months prior. And it was, yeah. So all of that equity over the last 3 years, it's been just massively multiplied. Granted, it's gone down a teeny tiny bit. Maybe on average, I think it's something 3 to 4% on average that home prices have dropped in any said area. But the amount that has been gained over the last even 5 years has just,
Why is that though? Who has that job that decides market, or is it the stock market? Is it,
I think so. I think what started it was, I mean, our economy was doing really well pre-COVID, right? Everything was pretty
up and up
and booming. And so people were spending money pretty not frivolously, but people had a lot more money. So people were able to pay more for the house or XYZ. And then I could not explain the COVID thing, how that happened. I mean, obviously the Feds reacted to COVID and lowered interest rates, and people were like, oh, they're giving me free money every month and they're making it 2.5% to borrow more. Why not? And so that was kind of a free for all. And of course, it's supply and demand is ultimately what affects value, right? And so there was no supply and way more demand. And I was reading something at some point that said that it was the millennial age bracket of people, which I think I'm an old millennial. I don't remember. I don't know what the years are.
What the gap is.
But that age group of people stayed in their living with their parents for a lot longer than any generation had prior. And so all of a sudden, all these millennials at like 25, 26, all at the same time decided they wanted to buy. And they also happened to make that decision during the COVID times when rates were super low. And so they were all jumping on the bandwagon really, really quickly because rates were so low and money was so cheap to borrow. And so I think that was just like a perfect storm of all of the things. I don't think anybody could have predicted it. I was floored. Like, that is not what I thought. I applied for unemployment, like I was like, oh my God, we're done.
Oh no.
And, so I don't think anybody predicted that to happen. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe it was all by design.
Someone, like, who has that job?
Yeah.
Someone in the back of the room just like,
yeah, I'm going to do this.
Shake things up a bit.
Yes. And so that was just,
I have one, well, he reached out. He, wanted to do an application and he put like in the notes, like if you want to say anything specific, like, I'm looking at, this price range, or I'm looking at this specific house. I'm looking at this payment.
Yep.
It was very low for,
for the house that he was looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, I got to the conversation, well, we're paying rent right now and our rent is less than what we owned our house in 2018. And I was like, yeah, I know. But then, I pull out the loan calculator, mortgage calculator that we have and jot things in. And I'm like, this is your estimate. And it was not even close. Yeah. And it was like a shock effect.
Yeah.
So I hate, we always want to say like, do things that are going to be at your benefit. Don't, do too much that isn't going to become anything. You're doing all this time and effort, you don't get paid unless there's a close. But I would like people to know right at the get-go,
oh, 100%.
This is what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And this is what you were comfortable with.
Yeah.
Look at the actual today's numbers. And if that doesn't work for you, I cannot force you.
Totally.
You can't convince yourself that that's
well, nor should you.
Yeah.
No one wants to be house poor.
No.
And I mean, I hear a lot of the argument of like, oh, when I bought, rates were 8, 9, 10%. And I was like, yeah, Linda, but when you bought a 3,500 square foot 4-bedroom house was $220,000. So it definitely, I get the argument that there's nothing we can do about interest rates. And I agree that waiting for anything to, if you can buy now, regardless of what the interest rates are, you should. And I just think that rings true always in real estate. And so I get both sides of it. I get like, you can't let the interest rates dictate you owning a home. And because, that's statistically true as well. Like, home ownership and real estate is the number one avenue to wealth in our system and just all of that, right? So you should always be trying to buy homes. And so I get the argument that like, don't let the rate affect you. But then I also like, yeah, but they do. But they really do affect you. We just closed on our home and our mortgage amount is exactly the same as the home that we sold when we left Seattle. Same exact mortgage amount.
Different house prices though, right?
No. Actually, the home we sold was more, but the mortgage amount, so like how much we actually took the loan out for, exactly the same to like the $1,000 mark. Our mortgage is like triple what it was in Seattle just because of a 6.25% rate. When we sold, we were at 1.97, I think. And so, yeah.
We definitely jumped on the bandwagon of refinancing.
Yes.
Like that was like the goal. And we took out some line of credit. We were going to build a shop, but then all the building stuff.
I know, but now I bet you wish you would have done it 2 years ago when you did that.
Oh, yeah. It's like.
Because it hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped. If someone was like, in their house, they're not happy with it, they maybe have some equity in it. Do you, like, have you ever put
it's all about your motivation right now.
Yeah.
Do you
HELOCs? Do you? Ooh, home equity lines of credit.
Yeah, I love a good HELOC. There's so many good uses for them. Figuring out how you're going to pay it back is obviously the number one. You got to make sure you have a solid plan of that, or else you're just going to be paying interest payments on it forever and ever, which is, you can do that too. That's probably cheaper than refinancing your house and pulling cash out to what your new interest rate would be. It would probably literally be cheaper if you wanted to pull $200,000 out of your house, and your interest only HELOC payment would probably be $600 or $700 a month.
Yeah.
Pay on that forever and do whatever you want until you sell your house, or whatever. It would still be cheaper than refinancing out and getting your new 6.75. I don't even know where we're at these days. 7. Yeah. So you would probably be better off still doing that than refining into what rates are today. But yeah, so much of the conversation I'm having people right now is just their motivation and why, and whether their motivation makes sense. I've literally told people, like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
How do you send some, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I did, but
no.
Information, like, how do you like get information to your clients that you know is best? Do you like to do kind of like a spreadsheet, like here's some numbers, or how do you get out?
I think I can typically get into that conversation pretty quickly, whether it's first phone call or meeting face to face, because that is always one of my first questions, is like, what is it that is encouraging this move? Because if it's not something big, then because we were so many people in the midst of 2% and 3% interest rates, we're just moving to move and selling to, because I've made $80,000 in the last year and a half. I'm going to cash out and go buy this place because the rates are even 0.5% lower than what I'm at now. And a lot of people were doing that. That's just not going to happen again, or not anytime soon, at least. And so much right now is like, okay, you got a job and you need to move. That you have no other option. You need to sell your home. I don't know, you're having triplets and you live in a 2-bedroom house, whatever it is, it has to be a significant enough. Yes, it has to be a significant enough reason. Wanting to move right now isn't the best reason to move.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are going to regardless. But yeah, if you're in a house that you're comfortable in with plenty of space and a 3.5% interest rate, I would not suggest you go anywhere anytime soon.
That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
Honestly, we would love a bigger house. But right now, it's like the size for us. It's a little small, but our kids just get way more stuff.
Totally.
And I feel it. Yeah. I feel it. Me, as I work in Linden.
Well, and just the itch. I'm always the one that I just always have like the itch to want a new house, and you see the houses every day, so it's like, oh, I want to live there, and so that's where like you have to stop yourself too, because I feel like everybody gets that itch, because these days with Zillow, and everyone's looking at all the houses every day no matter what, and so of course they're gonna see a house and it's beautiful and they want to do that, and then if you just like scroll down to that little estimated payment, just soak that in a little bit. Soak that in. It's not always very accurate. It's actually usually more than what Zillow says, because they rarely factor in taxes and insurance, and they're saying you put 20% down and all of that stuff. So add like $1,200 a month to your Zillow estimate payment.
In the loan calculator that we have on our website, it has all that, and you can do the exact property taxes annually. You can do the exact maybe HOA dues if you have any. You can do whatever percent. You can put no percent, like if you're getting a USDA or VA, there's no down payment. Yeah. So then it's like that'll show. That'll show. Yeah. Or people that are like, well, I don't have enough for down payment. I'm like, well, there's some down payment assistance programs. But they don't understand that that's going to tack on your borrowing more money. Oh, yeah. You're going to get more interest.
And mortgage insurance and all of that is going to be.
It makes it, they think they're getting a deal. Like the, first time home stuff. But it's calculating it out in a way that, this is what this program does. But this, if you put $10,000 down, will make a difference.
Big difference. Yeah. Yeah.
To see it on paper, and the sight unseen thing, that just, that blows my mind.
I did a lot of that in Seattle during COVID.
I bet in COVID.
Yeah,
not being able to
nobody could fly and do anything, and and so I did a lot of that. It was it's a terrible feeling the first time you bring someone to the house that you just sold them and they never saw it before. I had plenty of people that were super excited and plenty of people that were very obviously disappointed.
Oh no. Have you offered you'll go and do a walkthrough and
oh yeah, it's all we do
personal
all we did all sorts of
Zoom
video.
Yeah.
Well, actually what's that? Marco Polo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was the best app
all the
for
time.
well, it was so good for showing houses virtually because it saves the videos in there and they can go and watch them back over and over again and show them to people. And so I utilized that very heavily there for a year or so. But yeah, we would do tons of virtual showings and we would, do a Matterport thing. So they would have a 3D floor plan that they could walk through and all this stuff. But still, it's
wild.
It's still very intimidating.
Yeah. I talk to my friends all on Marco because timing, I'm sure I've got a few on my phone right now just because Snapchat's too little for my, and how much I want to say. But this is how I keep in touch with people.
I know I do it a lot with my family where everyone, and that's really the only, randomly, but mostly just my family that I use it for, but I do use it a lot with clients because it tends to be the best resource for, especially if people don't have, well, if you FaceTime, it's gone. Once you hang up the phone, it's gone.
But you can look back at it.
Yeah.
I did instructional videos for my sister when we first left with our baby. I was like, Kate, well, this is where her pacifier goes, very specific.
Yeah.
She could keep those.
Totally. Yeah. It's a great little tool.
Is there any other apps or tools that you use in your real estate that maybe not everybody knows, or is there apps or I don't know?
Well, there's this one edit or photography app. It's called Box Brownie. And it is phenomenal for lightening up skies or doing the a couple of photographers probably were not going to like that I say this, but it literally can edit it into a twilight photo for $4.
Oh, really?
A picture.
Oh, wow.
Virtual staging, all that kind of stuff, really, really affordably.
Really?
And I don't want to promote it yet because I just literally bought it and I haven't even received it yet, but I just bought a really cool camera setup. I've always taken my own real estate photographer or photos.
Yeah.
I had it was this company out of Seattle called Exposio that they had their own technology and they would supply you the camera and the little SD card had whatever their technology was that made their pictures and developed them so well. And so I found a similar company that's nationwide. And so I haven't got the camera yet to try it out yet, but I'm
exciting.
Very excited about that because I'm such a particular person when it comes to especially my photos, but just little things that I don't think you would even think of, I don't know. I just
staging.
No, it's not staging, but mostly just it's mostly more prep than staging. Open up all the dang windows and blinds and turn on every single light in this room and let's close the toilet seat and move the dog bowl out of the kitchen floor and the keys off the counter and the dishes out of the sink and all those little things. And so I prefer to be there to be able to see what
all of
is going on.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is when you're doing it yourself, you can take 150 photos and choose the ones you want rather than just getting sent 30 of them to you.
Yeah.
So.
And did you do it on a camera before, or did you do it on your phone?
No, yeah, we had a
camera,
big, Nikon or Canon or something. I don't know. So I'm a big professional camera.
So cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited to try that. See how that goes.
And you've done since you've been here all your own.
No, I haven't done any of my own since I've been here because I left that
the camera
and that was all stayed there. And so I've been using local real estate photographers and they do fantastic work.
Yeah.
Our real estate photography here is really good. I'm just want to do it myself.
Specific. The, being smaller with the amount of, how many real estate photographers there actually are, how many staging or how many are in.
That's difficult.
Yeah. How do you?
Well, I'm still trying to build up my network of all those people a little bit. I've been doing it now for a year and a half and have a good network. But I don't know, as the real estate agent in a transaction, I generally refer my clients to a lender. I generally suggest the title and escrow that I want that I would use. All that, everything is a referral from me. And so it doesn't matter who it is. If they screw something up, that's me. At the end of the day, my clients are like, you told me to use this guy and he did X, Y, Z. But so far I feel like all of those people in the Valley have been fantastic. Obviously having a wider pool to choose from would be great, because sometimes you're like, oh, I really love this one inspector and he can't do an inspection for 13 days, kind of thing.
Right.
And so I'm still trying to use people a little more often and feel them out and see how it goes. And
have you had to do a lot more out of town?
Not a ton at all. Okay. Well, I did just close on a place that was like BFE Kendrick, that was like a legit middle of the woods, middle of nowhere.
Forever to get out there.
Oh yeah, it was like 40 minutes outside of Kendrick into the mountains.
Wow, and
up. Yeah, but beautiful. And then I think Pomeroy is the furthest I've gone in the other direction.
Yeah.
I would say 98% is right here in the Valley. Yeah.
In town.
Yeah.
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 Do you prefer in town?
Well, yeah. The least distance you have to drive, the better, for sure. But I also like the cool, unique one-off properties where, like that property that I just sold in Kendrick, that it was kind of a treat going out there every time, because it was just, this breathtaking log home on this beautiful property. And, so it was never like, oh, I have to drive out there. Yeah. But like, I mean, it kind of is like, oh, I still have to drive out an hour and 20 minutes.
Time people are doing this outside their work hours, weekends.
Yes. Yeah, that is.
The times where, you'd like to spend with your family. And I get that.
That always comes up. And that's just kind of part of the deal.
Yeah.
I get weekends definitely tend to be, I haven't hit too much of it yet because I'm not as crazy busy as I was previously. But yeah, I mean, I used to only work Monday through Wednesday in my office because I worked so much on the weekends. My kids were home from school on Thursdays and Fridays, and those were the 2 days a week that I hung out with my kids, because I worked every Saturday and Sunday for
that was
years.
Your schedule. Yeah.
And so,
are you pretty strict now, or just kind of?
I try really hard to just like absolutely not on Sundays. Like I try really hard to get away around working at all on Sundays.
Open.
Yeah. And generally, most people, like, I have not really ran into any issues with that. Most people are very respectful and understanding and actually kind of appreciative. Had a lot of people like say like, oh, I appreciate that. Obviously, if I have people that are out of state and in town for 2 days or, something like that, you make exceptions in those cases. But I do try really hard that, like, I'm not leaving my house on Sundays. At least not by myself.
Right. Well, and I got, when I first, I had a couple people that were like, well, you need to be on the spot, ready when I am, kind of talk.
It's hard for a lender.
Get it?
Yeah. Because, I have texted on 4 p.m. on a Sunday and been like, hey, can I get this? Because and it's just, I think most happens. Yeah. I think most everybody in the industry kind of gets it. And you just kind of do what you got to do. I mean, even the balance is tricky. I had a preferred lender in Seattle that my whole team used, and we sent him a very large amount of business every year. And so he answered his phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when one of us called or texted him. And I don't expect that out of everybody by any means, but I definitely did expect it out of him.
Now, was that you had a preferred lender and that's all you really suggested?
Yeah.
And that is the norm for
it's pretty common.
Big cities or bigger areas?
Yeah. It's
or just
pretty
common in general?
I think it's pretty common in general. I remember when I first got here thinking it was kind of like weird that nobody used that practice, just because it was more of, it wasn't so much, this is my preferred lender and this is who, I mean, that was always my conversation was, hey, this is my preferred lender. I recommend him to everybody. I've worked with him personally, and this was all true. He was the best that I had encountered at his job. Right. He was the best, in my opinion, around. And so that's why I referred him to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I got over here thinking it was quite odd but it was also on the back end of not just upfront the service that was provided. We also had like a financial partnership in marketing and stuff like that. And so they would contribute to that stuff, which I haven't ran into much around here. So, I mean, I would totally be up for that with the right lender. I still, like I said, I still feel like I'm kind of like testing the waters a little bit as far as being all of the vendors that I need. Yeah. And so, but yeah, I think it is mutually beneficial. Not so much like lenders tend to not get as many people that are not working. Like it's not super common that the first thing someone does is call a lender, which they should, but it's just not very common.
No,
and so
it's for sure.
I would guess, I don't know, 90% of people that you talk to are already working with an agent.
99.
Yeah.
It's very small.
Yeah. And I've always been aware of that. So I've never expected like reciprocity. Reciprocity. That's the word I'm going for.
I get what you're saying, but I'm going to mess it up too.
In referrals, because I just know that that's not plausible for a lender. But that's when they come in with the marketing assistance.
Right. I mean, with us, like, compliancy is huge.
Yeah.
Like on here, I don't say who I work for because I would have to have them turn it in. And, so I'm kind of just doing this as like my own, but it's that compliance in now that, laws and all these things. But like
it's a lot more strict on the lending side.
And some of the big like podcasts or big groups or, Facebook things that I follow that are LO based, like I have an LO study group when I was first going through the test. And then you go into another group when you finally pass the test. And there's this Sunday or a brunch, something, oh gosh, I can visualize it, but it's all these groups and they're like, oh yeah, I'm finally their preferred lender. And it's like their stuff and what they're going through is cold calling and doing all these things that, it's so different here.
Yeah.
That when they want to hear it's like, this is what I'm doing. And they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
I know. And it's a lot. It's that process as a lender, I feel like, must be so difficult because I just know as an agent, not like on purpose, but like getting the invites to all the things all the time from it's a little exhausting, that's for sure. When you're like, I really don't want to go have drinks again for the, that kind of thing. Not that it's not all the time, but it definitely is like, okay.
Like you're trying to sway, like it's whether, I may have the best deal or I may, be the best personality. It's like, it's hard. And that's why, this is something that, I would rather get to know you in a way that, I can introduce me and make it different. But
what I loved so much about my old lender is that it would be like burning down and there'd be a huge problem and I would never know about it. And he would fix it every time. He would tell me after the fact, like, oh, XYZ happened and XYZ happened and I did this and this and this. And I'd be like, good job. I'm glad you didn't call me to bring me into that mess of a disaster fire. I didn't want anything to do with that. And I know a lot of people aren't the same way. They want to be way more involved in that side of it. And
100% of the time, you're the first person to tell me that.
I want nothing to do with it. That's your job.
There you go.
I do my job. You do yours.
I kind of like when we have had situations where it's like my last deal was a stressor.
Yeah.
There was always something happening.
Yeah.
And they were getting a little frustrated and it's like, well, would you rather hear about it after the fact or in the moment? Like, and 100% of the time, everyone's like, oh yeah, you can overly communicate. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like I am that kind of way, but to get that oh, I want to know about it maybe after the fact.
Yeah.
If it gets resolved.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, if it's not going to get resolved, I need to know. Like, if you're afraid that there isn't a solution, that was like, I remember having that conversation with my lender. Like, if you're confident that there's a solution and you can figure out, I have all the faith in the world in you. And that took years to get to that point too.
Yeah.
I worked with him for several years and did hundreds of transactions with the guy. So I 100% trusted when he said that he knew that he could fix this, that he would. But yeah, I'm definitely more of a, like, I will double check about once every 10 days that everyone's doing their job. Like, I'll do like a quick check-in once every 10 days. Like, how's everything going?
Yep.
Anything I need to know about. If not, keep doing you.
Good to go.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I just
there's times where they'll send me like, can I have an update? It's like, I would give you one if I
had one. Here, there's nothing new.
And right now, like verification of employment, like we have to ask companies or businesses to send us a VOE.
Yeah.
And we
half
send
the time they never do.
Half the time we're like every day bugging them. Send this in, send this in, send this in. And then everyone's waiting on like they're like, well, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
There's
hard. A lot there. It is. And I mean, your guys' side of it. I mean, I don't know. I tend to feel like I know a little bit about lending, but I really don't think I do. Like, I don't know.
In buying your own stuff, your own properties, you're going through the process. It's hard.
I know, and still things just shock me all the time. Like when we just bought our house, I don't know, maybe I don't even remember, a week before closing, they were like, oh, FYI, we can't use any of your income. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we have to qualify you just on your husband's income because you showed a loss from 21 to 22. No. Or not a loss, a decrease. Yeah, you showed a decrease. So we can't use any of your income to qualify you because we have to assume that it's going to, until you can show an increase, we have to assume that your income is going to continue to decrease. I was like, well, that's not very logical. Like, I was doing a lot more business over there. But I mean, and I had no idea. Yeah. I was completely floored. Never heard of that in my life. I had no idea that was a thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's so many different aspects to your job that I have no clue how it works still. And that's why I'm like, you need to talk to your lender because that's not a question for me.
Yeah. You give your stuff, your spiel. The info,
Right.
Do you hand out or, do anything to give to your clients, or is it more just
I have verbal? As far as like first meetings and stuff like that, or
do you give them any informational
I've created like a 15-page like buyer's packet kind of thing that I give people, the first time I meet with them, and then I have a listing presentation packet, same thing that when I go to present CMAs, I'll leave with the clients there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't like give them that.
Well, it's a lot of work to make them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, lots of hours. And I am not a graphic designer by any means. So even more hours than anybody with an eye for design because I don't have an eye for design.
Do you send that kind of stuff out?
I have in the past. Right now, I'm doing all of that kind of stuff on my own just because I do have the time. Yeah. I couldn't justify sending it out and paying for it because I definitely have the time currently to do it. So,
but you're learning more.
Yeah. I definitely. I have had an assistant for the last 8 years that has done everything for me, and so that was a big shock. Yeah. I was like complaining because we have all these like compliance stuff that we have to do. As far as like our brokerage has its own kind of like system that you have to upload all your contracts in and make sure everything is done right. And I was like complaining about it. Like I don't think whatever brokerage, I don't know. I was like, I don't never had to do this before. And they're like, yeah, you never had to do it, but someone did. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yes. So that has been
A change.
Yeah. But fine. I mean,
yeah,
totally fine.
From now being kind of settled here, you know, and business-wise, do you have goals that you're kind of willing to share with me, or anything that you're striving for?
Not as far as like numbers, or not specific. I mean, definitely I set number goals all the time. I don't think that's relevant. What I definitely want, I don't know, I am such a service-oriented person. Until before I got my real estate license, that's all I had ever done. Any job was coffee or bartending or serving in a restaurant. And I think so much of that is, I don't know, the relationships and all of that kind of stuff just really pulls to me. I just love getting to know people. And so I think my biggest goal is just to kind of bring a different level of service into the valley that we always used to say, like, you know, at Nordstrom's, how they walk around the counter and hand you the bag as you're standing on the other side. Like, I want to have Nordstrom's service of real estate. Like, that's what I want for my clients. And I think that is definitely my goal. And I think that leads to the number goal, right? Like if I master that and do that really well, then the numbers goals are going to come.
Yeah.
So
fruition.
Yeah.
You're manifesting like what, I don't know. I've been into the whole like trying to get your mindset into
totally. And let it all in.
Yeah. I love that though. Making something, I don't know if this town or if this area has been just very kind of stuck in some of its ways and some of its, you know, and changing things up like this.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks this is like
wild,
different, so different.
Yeah.
And I want it to be a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I definitely think that, I don't know. Even working in Seattle and stuff, and I remember like looking at, you know, real estate listings here and just being like, what the hell? And I don't know if it's a lack of, I don't know why.
It's just not.
I have a specific like memory of this house that it was like June or July, and the kids still had like Christmas lights in their bedroom in the listing photos. And I was like, what? Like, who would not have that conversation with their client? Because that's wild. And so just little stuff like that I don't know that even people would have known to even.
Something that is distracting and.
Yeah, I mean, just little things. And, you know, and having those, I don't know, I've always been pretty able to be like pretty direct with my clients, because it is always an awkward conversation. Like, hey, your furniture sucks. You got to get it out of here. Like, that's never fun. Right. But, or just little stuff. Like, if their house stinks, you know, you just never know. And having those conversations is super awkward. Yeah, it's super awkward. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you hired me. You're paying me a significant amount of money. Like, I would think that you would think that my value is coming from the advice that I'm giving you, and my advice is only coming from experience and exposure to our market. And not very many people are going to argue with you after that.
Right.
You know, I hear that a lot of time from agents. Oh, they won't do it. Like, I bet they would. If you really explain to them why and the benefit of it, I bet they would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before an inspector, you know, you go out and look at it. Do you just kind of tend to like preemptively like know, like, oh yeah, that's going to need work done. Oh yeah, that.
Yeah, I will. I actually do a walkthrough prior to a listing appointment. So I'll go
personally.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll go to the house 20, 30 minutes, quick walkthrough with them so they can point out anything special that they've done, upgrades, whatever, something maybe that I wouldn't see to the naked eye, whatever it is. And at that walkthrough, I take notes of, they need new exterior paint. They need to paint their front door. They need to XYZ, whatever it is. And I will send that to them in an email after the listing is signed.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. After the listing is signed, I will send all of their to-do list in an email.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you, or statistically over there or maybe here, have you had to deal with like you being the agent for the sellers, but then you're the agent for people buying?
Literally had never done it one time. I have done it now one time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's hard because you're having to deal with both like needs of people, you know, right?
Well, and it's like it's a really narrow bridge of ethics.
Yes.
I have done it one time on a piece of vacant land. Not as
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess if the situation came about and I felt comfortable with it and everybody was, but I don't know that I would be, because it's really, I don't know how you do it ethically, really.
Right.
I don't know how.
It can be done.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on your where you fall in your opinion of the ethics. Yeah. I mean, obviously it can be done. There's lots of very reputable agents that do it around here. Mm-hmm. It's very common around here. I had literally, I think 2 or 3 times previously in my career had that ever even came up. Wow. And that being an option.
Yeah.
And so I know that it can be done. Yeah. I think I would rather, hey, you handle this and pay me 25%, and I'm going to take all of that awkwardness and stress and all of it. And the bad outcomes at the end just can be, because, if something happens, it's always at the last 3 days before closing. And if you're representing the buyer and the seller in a situation where whatever it is, seller can't get out on time and seller needs 3 more days past, whatever it is, you're just never going to win in that situation.
Negotiating just with yourself.
Well, you're just never going to win. Someone's going to hate you. Yeah. One of them's going to be mad at you. And, if it's a perfectly smooth transaction and everything goes great, then that's fantastic. Yeah. And you get both sides commission and you're happy. But if something comes up, someone is going to be mad at you. Yeah. No matter what. Like if an issue arises and it gets settled, someone's going to be less satisfied with whatever the solution was. Right. And
I'm just curious.
Playing both sides.
Yeah, both ends of the stick. It's like,
yeah, I don't know. It can totally be done. I know that it can, because again,
it can.
Yes, it can. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not my jam.
Do you prefer buyers or sellers?
Oh gosh, I do like buyers. Well,
but you like the staging stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm probably like 50-50 on where my businesses came from in the last year and a half. I think I'm probably pretty evenly. I like sellers because I think I get to prove a little bit more of my worth when it comes to selling. I mean, there's a lot more pressure because the seller's one paying you. So they're like, what are you doing? But I also like to be able to prove that, what I'm doing, because buyers really, I don't even know how many times buyers have been like, oh, I want XYZ amount of your commission since all you did was open my door, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely a lot easier, not easier, but the work that you put into a listing. And I enjoy all the work of the listing. I love the staging process. I love the photo process. So I enjoy that side of the work. But I love the great thing about working with buyers is like sometimes you're hanging out with these people for 6 months and you get to know them really well and get to know their kid. I mean, I've been in a client's wedding. Like I ended up really good friends with a client and ended up was in her wedding. And so the relationship aspect, I think, gets a little tighter on the buyer side just because you're out and about, looking at all these places. And sellers, it's like, you talk to them every couple of days or whatever. And up to, the week before you list the house, you're really involved. But once the house is on the market, your job is kind of out of the house. You're not in their house anymore once the house is on the market. I don't know. I don't think I would prefer one or the other. The biggest plus side of a listing is that it brings you more leads. The listing brings you leads. Yeah. And so obviously everybody wants listings because then you get leads from your listing.
The creativity side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like you enjoy.
I definitely like the staging process and I like the perfection process of it. Like have always been really proud of the product that I put out when I put a new listing out. And so
attention to detail.
All of that little stuff. And so that process I really enjoy. But I like it all.
Over the years, you know, having some time under your belt, is there any advice, anything you can give out to anybody? Someone maybe not even in the real estate world, someone that's looking to buy, or you've bought houses. What is something that you...
Oh gosh.
It's hard.
Real estate, like in the industry, I don't know. I think I had my business partner, before we were partners, I worked for her first before we became partners. And I remember one time on like a weekend morning or something, another agent in my office asked me to show houses for her. And I was calling her, and I'd been licensed for like, I don't know, 3 months or something. And I was like, heck yeah, she's going to pay me $25 an hour or something to go show these 6 houses. And my business partner was like, that's going to take you 10 hours. Do not do that. Like, do not, she was just like, absolutely not. And she just instilled my worth in me when it came to being a real estate agent, even as a brand new agent and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that is one thing that I always try to like reiterate to people. Like, you are a professional, and like, people are hiring you. They're coming to you because they don't know what they're doing. So you need to exude that, like exude your worth and be proud of your work, and don't discount your commission, and don't like, it's just it's not even like ego thing, but it's just, I think our profession, obviously, we get not degraded, but like, oh, you're a used car salesman, and stuff like that. And so being confident in like the worth of your job, and I'm very confident in I am really good at my job, and I know that if you called any past client of mine, that they would not have a qualm with the amount of money they paid me to sell their house. And so I think that's a lot of real estate too, is just kind of faking it till you get there, right? And I think that is so much of real estate, especially now with social media and stuff. It's really easy to make it look like you're really busy.
Oh yeah.
And that you know exactly what you're doing and got it all going on and stuff. And so, but I think that's good. I think you have to kind of put that out there to get your foot in the door and get your name out there. And so that, I would say, would be my advice as far as new agents and stuff, is just like, learn as much as you can and talk to everybody all the time. But also like
exude it.
Yeah. Just like, you are worth what you're charging. And I mean, I don't know. I think that our industry gets dragged down a lot because people have no idea where the money goes. Everybody thinks we're just taking home big fat 3% checks every time we close, and that's just not true. But regardless of that, it is a career where you can make fantastic money and control your schedule somewhat, have lots of flexibility and all that. I don't know that there's anything outside of real estate lending and wise that would offer you the ability to make as much money as you can make. But you also have to be really good at it to make that kind of, I think the average salary for a real estate agent is something like $36,000 a year or something nationwide. That's the average salary. So you do have to be good at it because there's a lot of competition, especially over the last 2 years. The competition has just exploded, right?
Skyrocketed.
I've always been of the mindset that there's more business than agents, and there always will be. Like, there is plenty of business for everybody. And so to just,
that's good. I liked that.
Walk into a room and own it a little bit.
Love that.
Yeah.
Strut your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kylee.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll do a goodbye clink.